Way to go. You get lost.
The $1 million mansion is mine now.
When I returned to the States after working overseas, my husband, Ryan, suddenly handed me divorce papers. The reason? He had a child with Olivia. When I found out the two of them had been having an affair, I was so stunned I couldn't speak. Ryan's mother and Olivia looked at me with smug satisfaction. Their grinning faces filled me with frustration, but I quickly regained my composure and made a decision. Sure. Determined to take action, I casually replied to their remarks and left the home I had lived in for years. They would regret ever picking a fight with me. Thinking that, I headed to a certain place. My name is Hannah Taylor. I'm a fashion designer. Until recently, I worked for a corporation. However, when my close colleague and rival Emma Anderson left the company, I decided to strike out on my own. Now, I work as a freelance designer, mostly focusing on international projects. Life has been a whirlwind, and through it all, I had a husband. His name is Ryan. Ryan and I met at work. I was a designer, and he was my boss, managing the development team. There was always tension between the development and sales teams in our company. And the main cause? It was me. I refused to compromise when it came to work. Even when the sales team demanded I lower production costs, I held firm. My reputation in the industry was already significant, even back then. Rather than mass-producing cheap products, I focused on sourcing quality materials to create greater value. The sales team didn't agree. They repeatedly told me my designs wouldn't sell, leading to many clashes that surely gave Ryan a headache. But despite all that, he respected my vision.
There are plenty of customers who adore Hannah's designs. Just create freely, the way you envision it. Leave the sales negotiations to me.
It was his calm and mature demeanor that drew me to him, and eventually, I confessed my feelings to him. We started dating, and things moved quickly, leading to marriage. I thought life would continue to be smooth sailing. But reality wasn't so kind.
What? You can't have kids?
5 years into our marriage. At the time, I was still working in the States, but had already left my company. I was working on a new collection for the international market. That's when I discovered I was infertile.
What's the point of a woman who can't have kids? This has been in our family since my grandfather's time, and now you're going to ruin it. Don't you dare.
From the beginning of our marriage, Ryan constantly pushed me to have kids, but there was no sign of a pregnancy. Anxious, Ryan insisted on fertility testing. I agreed, understanding it was important for our future. The results revealed that the issue lay with me. When his mother learned of the test results, she exploded with anger. Ryan's family owns a historic inn that's well known in the community. Determined not to let it close during their generation, his mother, Joan, had Ryan leave his corporate job to take over the business. She even demanded that once we had kids, they would also inherit the inn. But now, Ryan wasn't having any children. Desperate for a grandchild, Joan berated me relentlessly.
A woman who can't have kids is just dead weight. We didn't bring a jinx like you into this family to destroy us.
Hot-tempered by nature, I couldn't let those words slide. I snapped back at her, using cold logic to counter her tirade. With all due respect, Joan, I earn the majority of our household income and handle all the chores. You say a woman who can't have kids is worthless, but I'm generating more profits than Ryan. How does that make me useless? Normally, I'd never undermine my husband. But at that moment, I was furious with Ryan's attitude as well. At work, he always stood by me no matter what. But when it came to his mother, he never took my side. Instead, he supported her to keep her happy, never showing any consideration for my feelings.
Even if the household is running smoothly, it's meaningless if you're not functioning as a woman.
Honestly, isn't the idea that women have to have kids outdated in this day and age? If you need an heir, why don't you adopt or look elsewhere? Ryan and I already decided we'd make things work, even if we couldn't have kids. Seeing that I wouldn't back down, his mother grew even more frustrated. Her temples twitched, and she breathed heavily with anger. I thought she might charge at me like a bull seeing a red cape. But I wasn't going to back off either. She was the one who started this fight. I wasn't about to just sit there and take it. If I were the type to cave under this kind of pressure, I wouldn't have survived all those clashes with the sales department at my old job. Being a designer requires sticking to your principles. As I steeled myself and stood my ground, Ryan remained indifferent. He sat behind his mother, avoiding eye contact with me entirely.
This is your fault. If you weren't so harsh, Ryan would have been able to voice his opinions.
That's not true. When we talked about this yesterday, you agreed with me, didn't you? When I turned to Ryan, who hadn't shared his opinion, he avoided my gaze awkwardly, hiding behind his mother and muttering in a low voice.
Well, yeah, I did think that when we found out about your infertility. But now that I've taken over the inn, I've been having second thoughts, you know.
What? I was dumbfounded by Ryan's halting and unbelievable response. He had never said anything like that until now. Even during previous arguments with Joan. Since Ryan took over the inn, we've had countless arguments. Even during those times, he never said anything like this. In fact, at first, he used to defend me against her. But now, what had changed? The moment those incomprehensible words left his mouth, my feelings for Ryan evaporated. I started to doubt our future together, and our marriage became strained.
That's unacceptable. He's being completely unfair. How could he bring this up now, of all times? What is he even thinking?
When I shared the story with Emma, she was even angrier than I was, her mouth agape in disbelief. Exactly. And ever since then, it feels like he's avoiding me. He only comes home after I've gone to bed or when I'm not around. After quitting my job, Emma and I often met at coffee shops like this. We'd catch up, discuss work, and talk about anything. It felt like chatting with a sister, and it was comforting.
That's outrageous. Honestly, why don't you just divorce him? You don't need to cling to someone like that, do you?
I know, but Emma's point was valid. But for me, Ryan's understanding of my career was a significant reason I had stayed with him. By this time, my work was focused internationally. I frequently traveled for business and often left home for over a month at a time. As a woman who wasn't a stay-at-home spouse, it wasn't easy to find a man who could accept such a lifestyle. Ryan's support in that regard had been invaluable to me. Emma also has been a great support to me. She had strong connections with international clients. The increase in my overseas work was largely thanks to her network.
Is it because he's taking care of the house? But wasn't that the agreement when you bought the house? You even considered his mom and built a custom-made home for them. Exactly. And for people like that to treat you this way, you should really reconsider. You don't need to put up with such awful people.
Emma was right. I bought the house for Ryan and his mother. Since I wasn't often in the States, I wanted to make their lives as comfortable as possible. I had the house designed to be barrier-free so they could live comfortably in their later years. The total cost amounted to $1 million. Emma understood the thought and care I had put into it. Perhaps that's why she was so furious at how Ryan and Joan were treating me. You're absolutely right. After the last incident, I've really started to see that clearly. I'll talk to him about it soon.
That sounds good.
After venting for a while, we moved on to casual chatting over tea. That's when I got a call from Ryan. It was unusual for him to call while I was out with my friend. Wondering what it was about, I picked up the phone and he hesitantly began to speak.
Hannah, I want a divorce.
What? His sudden announcement left me dumbfounded, and all I could do was let out a shocked response. But Ryan kept insisting on the divorce. Realizing we wouldn't get anywhere over the phone, I told him I'd come home right away and hung up. As soon as I walked into the house, I was stunned. Sitting next to Ryan were his mother and my sister, Olivia.
It's been a while, Hannah.
Olivia looked at me with a smug grin. Joan also seemed unusually cheerful, and the bizarre scene filled me with a sense of dread. Not understanding the situation, I stood frozen in shock as Joan spoke in her usual condescending tone.
What are you standing there for? Sit down already. Ryan has something important to tell you.
The way she said it so flippantly irritated me. But I didn't let it show, instead sitting across from the three of them, holding back my frustration. What Ryan said next was beyond belief.
Hannah, let's separate. Olivia is pregnant with my child.
What? Olivia, are you pregnant? I couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. As far as I knew, Olivia didn't even have a boyfriend, let alone a husband. Yet she was pregnant. And why would her pregnancy mean Ryan and I needed a divorce? My mind raced to piece it together as I turned to Olivia. She smirked and delivered the shocking truth.
That's right. I'm pregnant with Ryan's baby.
Excuse me? Ryan's baby? Her words made no sense, and I stared at her wide-eyed. Then she placed an ultrasound photo on the table. Sure enough, it showed a baby, confirming their story wasn't a lie. But Ryan and Olivia? A baby between them? What was going on? Could it be that the two of them? So you were cheating with Olivia? The unbearable thought crossed my mind, and though shaken, I voiced it. Suddenly, Joan stood up and proudly pointed her thumb at Olivia.
Way to go. Now you can leave. This means our inn is safe. We've finally found an heir, after all.
So I'll be taking the $1 million mansion for myself. It's not like you and Ryan have been doing well recently anyway, so divorcing shouldn't be a problem, right? Oh, and make sure you handle the property settlement properly. Since we're having a baby, I'll take that as a celebration gift.
I couldn't close my mouth at the audacity of the two of them, calmly spouting such unbelievable things. Ryan avoided looking at me entirely, as if too embarrassed to meet my eyes, and just kept staring off into the distance. So that's it. From the beginning, I was just a cash cow to them. Emma's words suddenly flashed through my mind. She was right. I should have dumped this man a long time ago. As I regretted my own naivety, frustrated by my lack of a clear response, Olivia threw impatient and harsh words at me.
Hey, are you even listening? I said, divorce Ryan. Got it.
All right. Olivia snapped, clearly annoyed. But if anyone had a right to be angry, it was me. Still, wasting energy on people like this was pointless. I stood up abruptly from the couch, gave a nonchalant reply, and left the house. I could hear Olivia and Joan yelling something behind me, but I didn't bother to listen. I left the house I'd lived in for so long, determined to act. There was no way I let them get away with this unscathed. After all, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. They would regret picking a fight with me. I headed straight to the top floor of a certain building. There, I met with someone and laid everything bare. With their help, I began planning a perfect revenge against Ryan and his family. A month later, I divorced Ryan as he had requested. The $9,000 mortgage remaining on the house was transferred to Ryan's name, just as they had wanted. All that was left was dividing the assets. But then something unexpected happened. Ryan, Joan, and Olivia somehow found out where I was living and barged into my new house yelling,
You've got to be kidding me. Why is there still a mortgage on the house?
Nobody told us the property taxes would be so high. There's no way we can pay that.
This is fraud. You haven't even discussed the division of assets. What's going on? Say something.
They were acting like thugs. What kind of grown adult storm into someone's home yelling like this, not wanting complaints from my neighbors? I begrudgingly let them inside to avoid further commotion at the door. I led them to the living room and immediately made a call to someone. When I returned to the room after the call, I found the three of them rifling through my belongings. They looked like common thieves. I was too stunned to speak, but Joan noticed me and shrieked,
Where are the bank books? You're hiding money somewhere, aren't you? Show me all your assets right now.
I've never seen anyone so blatantly rummage through valuables before. I couldn't help but feel relieved that I divorced him. You won't find anything here. I haven't kept any valuables in this house.
Not in this house? So, you have another place?
Of course. Do you really think I'd leave anything in this house in the same country as you all? This is just a place I rent when I'm in the US. My actual home base is in Paris, France. The three of them gasped in shock at my revelation. It was obvious Ryan and his family would try to track me down. I already knew they didn't have the financial means to maintain the house. I also anticipated they'd storm into my new place, considering how clueless they were about basic responsibilities. Property taxes, urban planning taxes, and other expenses. Anyone with common sense knows these exist, but none of them had ever questioned it. They've always relied on others to handle everything. Nothing is scarier than ignorance, and they were living proof. Joan was especially appalling. Despite supposedly managing the inn with her husband, she couldn't even foresee these basic expenses. Her ignorance was baffling. But when I thought about it, it made sense. She'd always left the inn's operations and finances entirely to her husband. I'd never once heard of her being involved in any of the bookkeeping. Still, her lack of common sense was shocking. It's laughable to call her the matron of a long-established inn. While staring at the three of them with a cold gaze, Olivia shrieked at me, storming closer.
Why are you the only one who's so well off? We're on the verge of being kicked out of our home, and you don't have a shred of sympathy to help us.
Are you delusional? Why would I help people as low as you? The cost of maintaining the house and the taxes are all consequences of your ignorance. That's your fault, not mine. I turned away, answering coldly, while Olivia bit her lip in frustration.
If you have so much money, just hand over the assets from the divorce now.
Before we deal with that, there's another matter I need to address first. That's why I've put it on hold.
Another matter?
The three of them looked confused, not understanding what I meant. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Joan glared at the door as if demanding to know who it was, but I walked over without reacting to her. I welcomed the visitor warmly and brought them inside. When I returned to the living room with my guest, the three of them immediately turned pale. Joan, in particular, looked terrified, her face completely drained of color. She stared at the visitor, trembling.
Why are you here?
She barely managed to get the words out through her quivering lips. The person who met her frightened gaze was none other than her father. It was Ryan's grandfather.
You're all so pathetic.
Why are you here? What's going on? Are you connected to this woman somehow?
Joan stammered in shock and confusion. Her words earned her a sharp glare from Ryan's grandfather.
This woman? Who do you think you're talking to?
Oh.
Ryan's grandfather was a strict, old-fashioned man. He was the epitome of a stubborn patriarch from another era, and Joan had always been intimidated by him. Ever since I married into the family, he had always been kind to me, welcoming me with a warm smile every time I visited. I never understood why Joan and Ryan himself were so scared of him. Until now, I finally realized. His kindness was reserved only for me. To them, he was a figure of relentless discipline. It was no wonder. They were terrified of him. Even Olivia, who was meeting him for the first time, turned pale at his commanding presence.
I ran into Hannah in Paris and heard about the divorce. To think that my own grandson and daughter would stoop to such disgraceful behavior against someone's daughter. As a parent, it's beyond shameful. I can't even find the words to express it.
After handing over the inn to Ryan's father, Ryan's grandfather started a new business. He partnered with the head chef he had worked with for years and opened a steakhouse. That restaurant became a huge sensation in the U.S., even earning 3 Michelin stars and drawing customers from around the world. This success led to him expanding his business internationally. It was at his Paris location that we met again.
I often met with Hannah in Paris. Since she didn't have many her friends there, we kept in touch whenever we were both in town.
Because his restaurant was membership only, it was Emma who introduced me to him. Emma was such a regular at his restaurant that she could walk in without question. They even dined together privately, and she had suggested that I consult him about my situation. Thanks to her, I acted faster than Ryan and his family could. Ryan's father wouldn't dismiss anything coming from his father-in-law, and Ryan's grandfather held significant influence over him. I knew that if he heard my side of the story, he would take my side. With that in mind, I reached out to him before Ryan's family could make any moves. I succeeded in getting Ryan's grandfather on my side. Ryan's grandmother is also a big fan of my brand, so she's one of my valued customers.
Why didn't you tell me about that?
Ryan, unaware of this, lashed out, clearly upset at being kept in the dark. His words struck a nerve, and I shot him a cold look before replying, not flinching in the slightest. And what would have changed if I had told you?
What do you mean? We're married. It's common sense to discuss important things like this.
Common sense? Don't make me laugh. If you want to lecture me about common sense, maybe you shouldn't have cheated and had a child with someone else. Why would I share anything with a man like that?
Gosh.
Ryan was at a loss for words, stunned by the undeniable truth I had spoken. At that moment, another visitor who had come with Ryan's grandfather stepped forward. It was my attorney. I had asked him to accompany Ryan's grandfather for this meeting.
Since Olivia's name came up, allow me to address another matter. I'd like to handle the issue of asset division with Hannah first.
What's this supposed to mean?
My lawyer smiled and handed Ryan a single document. As Ryan read through it, his face turned pale. The document detailed my claim for compensation for the emotional distress caused by his infidelity. Did you really think I'd just let this slide? Absolutely not. I'm going to make sure I get what I deserve.
But this is way too much money. I can't possibly pay this. I'm already struggling with the $9,000 mortgage.
Not my problem. You're the one who insisted on taking the house. All I did was transfer ownership like you asked. You lashing out at me is completely unjustified.
I'm not lashing out.
Faced with my argument, Ryan could only mumble, unable to defend himself. Olivia shot him a withering look, clearly unimpressed by his spinelessness. It was obvious that Olivia had targeted Ryan to spite me and for his inheritance. But she must have realized by now that she wouldn't actually gain control of the property. Joan intended to pass it down to her grandchildren, making Olivia's use of the inheritance practically impossible. That's why she had pushed for the house. To secure some financial leverage for herself. If you have complaints, why not take them up with her? I responded to his childish defiance with a composed expression, pointing out that Olivia had been the one demanding the house seemed to resonate with Ryan. He turned to glare at her, causing Olivia to grow visibly agitated.
Why is this my fault? You agreed to it too, didn't you?
If you hadn't insisted on it, I would have considered moving back to my parents' place. This is your fault.
Do you still not understand that this is all the result of your own ignorance?
As their argument grew increasingly petty, Ryan's grandfather's anger reached its peak. He roared at the three of them, his voice thundering through the room.
If you take ownership of a $1 million mansion, anyone with half a brain can imagine the high property taxes and maintenance costs. And yet, none of you ever questioned it, nor did you show a shred of gratitude to Hannah for paying the mortgage all this time. And now you dare to complain about the remaining balance? Ridiculous.
His righteous fury left the three of them in stunned silence. None of them dared to meet his gaze, their heads bowed in shame. Ryan's grandfather let out a heavy sigh, clearly disappointed.
Hannah, I'm truly sorry. It's my failure that caused you so much trouble.
This isn't your fault, sir. Please don't apologize.
Make sure to claim every penny of compensation from these people. Don't expect any help from me.
No, please, don't abandon us.
It was clear now. Joan had been so bold because she thought she could rely on her father as her last resort. At worst, if the divorce went to court or there were disputes over asset division, they planned to rely on Ryan's grandfather for financial support. That was their real intention. But I saw through their naive scheme right from the start. I felt truly relieved that I had made the necessary preparations. Thank you.
Now, we will proceed with this claim properly. If they refuse to comply, we will take legal action, which may lead to a trial. Please understand this.
I couldn't help but admire the excellence of my skilled attorney. For him, winning this case would mean a hefty reward. He was clearly eager to tackle this profitable task. Joan, on the other hand, looked utterly devastated by his calm yet firm demeanor. While Olivia shouted in panic next to her,
This isn't what we agreed on. You said once we got rid of Hannah, money wouldn't be an issue. You promised you'd handle everything.
Shut up. That's what I thought too, but
I see. That explains it. Olivia's outburst finally connected all the dots for me. Even Olivia must have known what would happen if she got involved with my husband. And yet, she went through with it. The reason? It had to do with something she was hiding from Ryan and his family. You kept your debts a secret from Ryan and his family, didn't you?
What?
What?
debts.
At my accusation, Ryan and Joan stared at me in shock. I pulled out a photo my mother had sent me as evidence. This was included in a letter my mom sent me after I told her about the divorce.
Stop it.
They must have thought I was unaware of the debt situation. Olivia tried to stop me, but it was already too late. I revealed the letter my mother had sent. Before her pregnancy, Olivia had racked up a debt of $50,000 and begged my mom to cover it for her.
$50,000?
What the hell is that?
The letter included photos of numerous payment demands. Tear stains were visible on the paper, vividly conveying my mother's distress. She had raised us single-handedly. And to think Olivia not only lacked gratitude, but also caused her even more trouble was beyond belief.
Damn that old woman.
She had to meddle. Olivia muttered under her breath, but her words were loud enough for everyone to hear. I already knew she had a sharp tongue, but Ryan's family was clearly shocked by her change in demeanor. Their jaws dropped as they stared at her in disbelief.
Judging by your reaction, it seems the debt is real.
In stark contrast to Joan and her shock, Ryan's grandfather watched Olivia calmly, just like I did. After carefully observing her behavior and confirming the truth in my testimony, he spoke words of contempt toward her. His words snapped Joan and Ryan back to reality, and they immediately turned on Olivia.
You wretched parasite. How could you keep your debts a secret?
Oh, shut up. If I'd told you about the debt, you wouldn't have agreed to have a baby with me.
Of course not. Why would I take on the risk of cheating and walk such a dangerous tightrope on top of it? That's insane.
The blame game began, with everyone trying to shift guilt onto someone else. The ugly squabble made me sigh in exasperation. It was truly exhausting.
Hannah, I was wrong. I didn't know Olivia was such trash.
Noticing my clear disdain, Ryan seemed to decide that earning my forgiveness was more urgent than continuing to argue. He changed tactics. He approached me, looking at me with pleading eyes.
Trash. You said horrible things about her when she wasn't around too.
Shut up. Stay out of this.
Ryan's outrageous response to Olivia exposing his hypocrisy only solidified my disdain for him. At this point, I could only view Ryan as someone utterly contemptible. I looked at him with cold, detached eyes.
I'll never do anything like this again. I won't even ask for kids. I'll support you with everything I have from now on. So, please, let's move past this.
Are you stupid?
Huh?
Ryan spoke as if my forgiveness was a given, listing off promises he had no right to make. But such convenient fantasies didn't exist. I crossed my arms, looked down at him, and let him have it. No matter how much you apologize or what you say, I will never forgive you. In fact, I'm thrilled to be divorcing you. It feels like a massive weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
Hannah?
I had never spoken to Ryan like this before. Normally, I would hold back and strive to respond maturely, but these were people who had tracked down my home and barged in without permission. Such courtesy was unnecessary. With that thought, I adopted a cold demeanor, as if dealing with trespassers. Rest assured, I'll make sure you pay for everything you've done. Look forward to the compensation claim.
No.
I'm done here.
All right.
Having said my piece, I signaled Ryan's grandfather. At his cue, his attendants entered the room and escorted Ryan, Joan, and Olivia out. They kept pleading, "Please forgive us," until the very end, but I didn't bother to listen to their cries. In the end, I successfully cut ties with all three of them. Each of them was held accountable and made to pay compensation. Through my connections, I discovered that Ryan and Olivia had been having an affair for 3 years. Olivia had started a blog under a pseudonym where she posted about her affair with Ryan. This served as definitive proof of their infidelity. As a result, the compensation claim shot up to $100,000. After all, they trashed my house and destroyed my marriage. I told them that if they refused to pay, I would involve the police and report it as an attempted burglary. They decided to contest the claim, escalating the situation to court. However, I had captured all the evidence on camera, making my victory in court inevitable. Additionally, I had recorded every interaction, including Ryan admitting to his affair. Realizing they were fighting a losing battle, Ryan's family reluctantly gave in. Afterward, I leaked the story to my journalist friend. Ryan's Inn was a place frequently visited by celebrities. Deeming the story newsworthy, it was featured prominently in weekly magazines. As a result, the inn's reputation was tarnished, and Ryan was fired. Ryan's father, furious at their disgraceful behavior. I heard that, appalled by the disgraceful behavior of his wife and son, he filed for divorce and severed all ties with them. Their names became infamous, and they were relentlessly bashed by the public. This hit Joan especially hard since she was a flower arrangement instructor. Olivia faced a similar fate. Her contracts with various agencies were terminated. Her work as a parts model dried up, and she had a massive fallout with Ryan. Ryan even refused to acknowledge their child. Olivia reportedly turned to Joan for support, but she sided with Ryan. Abandoned by both, Olivia left the child at a safe haven for infants. My mother and I completely severed ties with her. Olivia now lives in a rundown apartment. It seems she is now living a life of poverty, as if her previously luxurious lifestyle was nothing but a dream. Hearing all this from Ryan's grandfather, I couldn't help but smile. The karmic justice far exceeded my expectations, leaving me with a sense of closure. While those three are engulfed in chaos, my life has flourished, both professionally and personally. Worried about leaving my mother alone in the US, I brought her to Paris, where she now supports me. Thanks to Ryan's grandfather, our team has gained significant traction in Paris, achieving global recognition. Emma has been incredibly supportive of this new chapter, and we are now working together again. She has transitioned from designing to sales, while I focus on design and creation. Together, we've embarked on a journey as a dynamic duo.
I'm so glad to see you smiling again.
It's all thanks to you and Ryan's grandfather. I can't thank you enough. I refuse to let bad experiences linger. Instead, I channel adversity into energy to push forward. There's no time to wallow in despair. I have no choice but to keep looking forward and giving it my all. With that resolve driving me, I continued striving together with Emma,